Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Talmbout Rasslin right here on the Black Phoenix Network. I am your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. Well, we're back, and what do you know? We're going to talk about some more AEW. Now, hear me out this time. There's some WWE stuff that we kind of got to mention. Because it's fairly newsworthy. But hey, AEW has some news on the horizon as well. So we're gonna cover it all. This is not going to. I am going to review Dynamite a little bit, at least get my thoughts on the show. Last week, Forbidden Door, 6-hour pay-per-view or however long it was. So they ended up taking most of the show. This time I'm gonna try to do it a little different. So we're gonna blow through Dynamite, and then we'll get on to the news and things of that nature. So we're going to start out. First of all, before I even start again, thank you for everybody that's been tuning in thus far, for everyone who has made this show even possible. If you've been tuning in to this, if you've been tuning in to What's Up Wednesday, which I'll talk about in just a second, or if you tune into Manifesto Mondays, which is my audio series where I break down some of the songs that I've created over the years. You tune in any of that, anything here on the Black Phoenix Network, thank you so much. And if you haven't done it yet, now's a good time, okay? Because it's there. Okay, maybe not now, because you're watching the podcast now. But when we're done with this, then go back and watch some other stuff, right? But for now, stay here. We're talking about wrestling, all right? Then you can go back and find other stuff later. Before I get too deep into it again, I want to give a quick aside, and I have been meaning to make a note about this or a post about this, and I haven't done it yet. And I figured that since I'm here now talking to you, that I could do it now. Quick programming note as it stands. So this past Wednesday, I did not do a What's Up Wednesday. If you have been paying attention, I did not do a What's Up Wednesday this past Wednesday. I tried to. I had so much stuff going on. Didn't get a chance to actually sit down and write like I wanted to. So I will return with another What's Up Wednesday this coming Wednesday. And since I let down the people, I'm going to do a double dose, okay? 2 What's Up Wednesday articles this coming Wednesday to make up. You know, we want to make sure we keep it fairly consistent. So stay tuned for that. But that's not why you're here. You're here to talk about wrestling, and that's what we're here to talk about too, okay? So we're going to start with Dynamite. First of all, this week's Dynamite was, I think, a pretty good show. I have ultimately decided not to go to Philadelphia for any of these shows. And the main reason is because they put that AEW for the Sicko shirt on ProWrestlingTees.com so I can order it instead of having to go all the way to Philly to get it. Because I promise you, that was the reason for me doing it. So, thank you, Tony and AEW, for making that available and saving me the money of a plane ticket and hotel and Ubers and all that good stuff. So, though I still would love to go. I still would have loved to attend the show in 2300, but the way my life's set up right now, kind of got to stay put. So that being said, Dynamite was a good show. A lot of building up. Obviously, we're setting up for All Out. We have to turn around that card very quickly because you only got a couple of weeks at this point. One big piece of news, as we talked about the news of the week, one big piece of news, 2 actually, big pieces of news to come out of AEW this week, even before we got to Dynamite, was first and foremost that the AEW pay-per-views are finally coming to HBO Max, which is super dope. And they will be available for $39.99 if I'm not mistaken, which is a $10 discount off of what they usually cost on Prime. For some reason, I thought they were $59.99. I thought they were $60 because I've ordered the last maybe year I doubt it's been that long, but I feel like I've ordered quite a few over the last at least 6 or 7 months. Um, and I could have swore they were 60, but apparently they're 50. Um, I've always liked the Amazon Prime option just because I don't have traditional cable, and I used to do Dave and Buster's. A lot of the original, a lot of pay-per-views up to a certain point, I would go to Dave and Buster's and watch. And Dave and Buster's became trash because apparently they don't want to show it or something. I don't know. Whatever it is, um, no Dave and Buster's anymore. So I've been buying them at home. $40 is a lot better than 50, and I know that sounds crazy considering what I've said about what's going on with ESPN and the WWE deal, but I'd much rather pay that 40 here than and then I would have to get the entire service. Like I couldn't, I I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't. Um, so that's a huge thing, and having it there with all the dynamites. I'm assuming my curiosity is once you buy it, do you own it, and where is it? Where would it be? Does it just get added to the rest of the archive, or is it a special tier? Like I'm pretty sure there's gonna be some kind of update, and maybe it'll look a little different, so you'll be able to see that type of thing. I'm looking forward to it though, and it starts with All Out, which is September the 20th, if I'm not mistaken, which is a Saturday. And the second bit of news about that is that they have decided to bump the time up to what I think will be noon Central Time. I think it'll be like noon or 1 in the afternoon Central. They've done this obviously in response to WWE never having a shortage of pettiness and deciding to book this WrestlePalooza show uh, on the same exact day and up until this week at the same exact time. And apparently they're going to stack this card with Brock Lesnar versus uh, Cena, another um, I don't know if I want to spoil. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. It doesn't matter. The other match that I'm sure is going to happen is Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch versus CM Punk, and we'll get there. Um, and probably a couple of other matches. They're probably going to really try to stack this because because of course Triple H and Tony Khan, not Tony Khan, Nick Khan have set their sights on putting AEW out of business. Um, and so as trash as that is, that's what we're getting. But however, I actually don't mind the afternoon pay-per-views. I like it a lot better. Going to All in Dallas and getting out and like the sun wasn't out, but the sun wasn't out because it was like an ugly day outside. Like it was raining. I think it was either raining when we got out or it had rained while we were in there or something. But it was still plenty of daylight left. It was getting dark because it was obviously in the evening, and obviously now, as we get closer to fall, it's getting a lot. It'll be darker a little earlier. But these early pay-per-views are A1 to me. Like um, in and out, you know. Sure, it might take up a little bit of your day, but like some people that it's not even a thing anyway. Um, if you're a like a college football fan or something like that, like you spend most of your days inside watching TV anyway, watching football. After you did whatever you were gonna do for the day. So for me, this works out perfect. Like I can order whatever I'm gonna eat, get up, sit up, watch this show, and be thrilled with all the matches that are gonna happen. So, I have no problem with the move. I actually think it's a better move anyway. There's nothing in me that wants to see them go toe to toe with WWE. And I don't know why WWE wants to go toe to toe with them other than to be bullies. But it's the WWE wait, right? And so what are you gonna do about that? Um, you know. But all that being said, on this week's Dynamite, we had a great show. We set up a lot of things for All Out that I think are going to be very interesting going forward. A few things that happened tonight kind of telegraph some other stuff, and I'll get into all that as we go. But again, a great show. Um, most Dynamites are great, right? So here's what it is. We open up this show with Gabe Kidd coming out, calling out Darby Allin. Of course, Darby's gonna show up. You know what I'm saying? And get him and get that smoke. All right. Darby comes out. They get into a big brawl. Of course, AEW brawls are always funny because it's like Tony's in the back, like, no, let them fight. Let them get it out their system. Let them get it out. Because it's very arbitrary when somebody comes out to uh, help or separate or anything. So they fight for a good amount of time. Death Riders come in. Darby takes it out. Yuta with the thumbtacked skateboard to the back. Yuta has a match later, but okay. Um, so the rest of the Death Riders come out. The big brother jumping Darby, and then out comes Hook. Hook's new music is super dope, actually. Too, it's it's really dope. But before Hook can get to the ring, out come the Ops. Ops come out, run past Hook, which is a nice little wrinkle because now we got to cover this whole thing between the Ops and Hook, and why Hook kind of came out and um, at what was it, Double or Nothing, but hadn't really been involved with them since. So um, we're finally about to get a little resolution as far as that. Maybe not even resolution, but we're getting a continuation. We're actually going to start addressing it again. So I'm really happy about that. They come out, even the odds. Darby catches up with Gabe Kidd like in the parking lot, knocks him out with some chloroform. And if you're from Memphis around the 90s, chloroform hits different because that was they were notorious for that at one point in time. But knocks out Gabe Kidd, puts him in a body bag attached to his truck, his pickup truck, and drags him off into the night. And we don't see Gabe Kidd anymore. Wild. We got a TBS championship match, Mercedes and Windsor. You know I love saying it. Windsor. I love it. Another great match. Mercedes killing it. I don't understand all the Mercedes hate. Mercedes Hogan. I have my thoughts, and if my thoughts are correct, y'all are nasty people for that. But whatever. Mercedes killing it like she always does. Another stellar showing for Mercedes. And Windsor, they have really good chemistry immediately. Match is over. Windsor actually attacks Mercedes, and Mercedes gets the upper hand. And out of the blue, the Wednesday Night Wars killer Rio arrives, and that's gonna be interesting. I listened to listening to a Dynamite review earlier this week. They kind of mentioned how it's going to be a really interesting dynamic now because Rio's smaller than Mercedes, and that's very rarely the case. So it's going to make Mercedes' offense look that much better, that much more devastating because now she has somebody. It's not that normal. Like I'm really curious to see how this is going to go. That match has been made official for All Out. Now, there's an argument that like she just shows up and get a title match. She does, but who cares? I don't care. It's fine. So we're looking forward to that. I think that's going to look a lot different than a lot of the other Mercedes matches, and they're probably going to do some really interesting things with that. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one as well. Hook and the Ops had a little backstage thing, and Hook's like, "Yo, you couldn't wait for my body to get cold before you go replacing me." And it's like, "Yo, we had a title shot. We had to do something. It's your man." So so that was the thing. So we're gonna see where that goes. Uh, Mark Briscoe beat Lance Archer. Let just quick aside about Lance Archer. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast or not, but I've said it to people I know. There's no greater lie in professional wrestling coming out of a wrestler's mouth than everybody dies. Because Lance, my boy, if everybody dies, a whole lot of people around here living. A whole lot of people around here living. So hey, it's amazing that he's still considered like this monster and intimidating. He always loses. Always loses. Always loses. I cannot tell you. I'm sure there is one. I can't tell you the last Lance Archer match that he just won straight out. That wasn't like a jobber, like of any significance. Now, when he was doing the tag team thing with Brian Cage, um, uh, Bird Hawk Machines, they were going to win some matches, and I think that would have been a good match to have for Hurt since Cage got hurt. Which is another thing about the Don Callis family, as OP as they are, there's still like 2 or 3 people who are like just out. So when they come back, where do they fit in? Are they still in or not? They can be out. Interesting position to be in. They got Wardlow now. So what's they gonna do with Brian Cage, right? When he comes back, you're gonna have both of them. Big Hoss energy. I don't know. We're gonna see. Um, Tony gave another great interview. Tony Storm gave another great interview. She's killing it. Stat and Harley Cameron had this hilarious backstage thing as well. Harley is gold. Harley is comedy gold. Comedy gold. It's great. And uh, I can't wait to see where that takes her. However, there's been a lot of scuttlebutt online about AEW doing women's tag titles because it seems like that's where they're going because they have so many pairings now. All of a sudden, like this new team of Harley and Stat. This is interesting. This is interesting because you got to do it soon, right? Like you got to go ahead and do it because it's there to do. Um, so just a sidebar. Just a sidebar. If you're going to make these people teams, then you have to give them something to work towards because otherwise they're teams for nothing. Still no announcement of blood and guts for the women. So I'm not sure where all of this is really headed. It seems like kind of just getting kind of in this weird repetitive stage, but I'm hoping that that's what we're leading to. Because if not, again, what are we doing if that's not what the case is? Brodito and the Death Riders had a fantastic tag match. Fantastic tag match. Just the things these people do. Brody King is a freak of nature. Bandito is a superstar. Claudio is a freak of nature. And uses a little shit. And it all worked out. This match broke down into shenanigans because out came the Death Rider again, and here comes Darby again, kind of evening things up, and Brodito takes the win, of course, a successful title defense. 1 second. All right. We got a little follow up with Okada and Takeshita, with basically Okada saying, "Hey, I'm the top dog here in this Don Callis family, and you know, we're eventually going to get Okada Takeshita and take my money. Okay, I'm here for that. Here for that." Probably not doing it for All Out. If I were doing it, I would probably wait till like the Tokyo Dome. I don't know if they're doing the Wrestle Dynasty thing again this year, but if they are, I think that would be perhaps the place to do that match. Um, and there's some New Japan implications you could throw in there too, but we'll see how that goes. Um, Another match that we're signed that has been made official for, I think it's been made official for All Out, is Hurt Syndicate versus Ricochet and the Gates of Agony. That's going to be really good as well. Again, that card shape is starting to shape up. So, not that I had any question, not that I had any doubt that it would, but it's good to see it finally happen. Right? There's this FTR brawl with CNC, Adam Copeland, and Christian Cage, which will lead to a match with. Let me not even say they have a match tomorrow night on Collision. And then we got the main event, which was this all-star 8-man tag with Hangman, Kenny Omega, and Jet Speed versus Kyle Fletcher, Josh Alexander, and the Young Bucks. This is just PWG style fun and goodness. These guys doing all the things. There were so many moments, so many different, like, the moments of the elite being in the ring together. And we get this, like, flashback to one of the best tag team matches I've ever seen in the Bucks versus Kenny and Hangman at Revolution 2020. And it's like this, like, there's just so much. Like, we're at the point now in AEW history where there's lore. There's actual, and not just like BTE lore, but like AEW lore. We're finally at that point. And so seeing them have those moments was super dope. Kyle Fletcher gets the win, which is big. And then after the match, they attack Kenny and Hangman, put them both, well, he gives Hangman a brainbuster on a chair, and he gives Kenny Omega a brainbuster off the apron through a table. It looks like Kyle Fletcher is next up for Kenny. The problem there is that telegraphs a few things in succession. Okay. Mark Briscoe is currently attempting to get a match with Kyle Fletcher for the TNT Championship. He has a match with Takeshita tonight, filming this Friday night. He has a match with Takeshita on Collision, where if he wins, he gets the shot at Kyle Fletcher. Kyle seems to be in position to get a match with Hangman for the pay-per-view. Mark Briscoe also has this thing still with MJF, who we haven't seen in a couple of weeks. We saw a promo that he cut the night of Forbidden Door, but we hadn't seen him since. I guess, to me, it seems that the way to do this would be MJF will cost Mark Briscoe his match against Takeshita. That way, Takeshita still looks strong. Mark Briscoe loses, but his momentum doesn't die because it's interference. So there's that. So MJF comes out, distracts Briscoe probably. Takeshita wins. We get Briscoe and MJF at All Out, and Kyle is free to do a match with Hangman. That is my prediction. And I also think that if we're going to do that as the match, then Cope and Christian versus FTR probably will main event. Because as much as I don't feel like Hangman and Fletcher is going to be a great match, I don't know if I think that's going to be like a main event, um, go home kind of thing. Could be. I could be wrong, but and I don't know if they would want to. I don't know if Tony would want to do that 2 pay-per-views in a row, where the championship match is not the main event. So we'll see how that goes. And that is AEW Dynamite. That was AEW Dynamite. I told you I was gonna fly through at that time, right? Like I said, a lot happened, but uh, not. And later we're setting up the matches going forward with All Out. Um, I feel like there may have been another match or two that may have been announced for All Out, but I'm drawing a blank. I had to go and look, and I could do that right now, but I'm not. So again, a solid Dynamite, another solid Dynamite. They usually knock it out of the park every time anyway, so I'm not shocked at that at all. Um, AW is fine. Now, there's been a lot of scuttlebutt, and this is the thing that you're not gonna hear me talk about a lot because I don't really care because I don't think it matters. But apparently, Dynamite's um, rating this week was super low, lower than normal for whatever reason. I don't know why, and I don't care. I don't really care, and I don't think WB cares or HB or whatever, whoever we're calling it now. I don't think they care either. AEW has been good to them. They've gotten them way more success than anybody really wants to give them credit for. So I think WB is fine. One bad rating isn't like, oh, but of course with the discourse of the internet, one bad rating, the sky is falling. Oh, this is why they're this. This is why they're that. Whatever. We care too much sometimes. Or some people, I shouldn't say we, because I'm not in that, of course. But people care too much sometimes about ratings and that type of thing because it doesn't matter. We're wrestling fans. Let's watch wrestling and let's enjoy it. No matter where it is, no matter who it's on. Like what you like and what you don't like, you don't have to watch. There's so much out there now that you do not have to watch anything that you don't want to watch. Okay. If I want to watch AEW nonstop, I got HBO Max and I can watch every pay-per-view just about and every Dynamite. And I don't think the the Rampages might be there. I'm not sure. But I can watch all of that right now. Um, I've kind of moved away from WWE because, like I said, it's really hard to support this company. But what are you gonna do? Um, Speaking of the WWE, um, I avoided last week talking about the counter programming, but I have mentioned it this week. I didn't mention the ESPN thing and the details of that because I don't intend to get it. Um, but one thing I will say about WWE tonight, as a matter of fact, even though it has been um, highly speculated since Sunday, since Clash at the Castle, AJ Lee is back in WWE, looking the same way she did the last time we saw her in WWE. It doesn't feel like 10 years has passed, but apparently it has, and that's the thing. So she's back, and of course she's aligned with Punk, and of course they're gonna go again. I think they're gonna go against Becky and Seth, um, which will be great. Great to see her back in the ring. Great to see her back in. Again, I would have loved to see her in WWE. I mean, in AEW. But who are me? Who are me? Um, One thing I will say is uh, talking to a friend of mine earlier, and he made this point that AJ Lee was ahead of her time, actually. She's actually like the catalyst to the entire Divas movement, the entire Give Divas a Chance movement, and really is what kind of brought forth the Four Horsewomen, Paige, like I said, the Four Horsewomen, and everything that came behind that. But she was gone by the time they all got up and came to prominence. So there are a lot of matches that we didn't get, and yet a lot of matches that we still can get. I mean, she had, again, there's an entirely new crop of uh, women wrestlers who have not who weren't around when AJ was there. So there is so much for her to do now, so much for her to sink her teeth into. And she's signed a contract. And I don't know what the contract looks like. I highly doubt it's going to be like a every week full time. It could be. She could be on a similar deal to Punk. I don't know, but it is good to see her back, and there's a lot of meat on that bone that they can pull from. So that is really great. Um, the pop tonight, they were in Chicago, of course, with that dude, whatever, her husband. And she comes out to like this enormous pop. She's done the skipping around the ring, and it's fantastic. And everybody's happy. There are video reactions of people crying, skipping around themselves. It's a joyous occasion, and she deserves that. And sometimes in wrestling, you need to feel good moment. Had it been anybody else, if it wasn't AJ, it would have been a crime scene trying to get WWE out of that building that night. So glad to see it was AJ. They did the right thing. They delivered what we all knew they were supposed to deliver. Um, Triple H didn't do his surprise for surprise sake thing. Everything worked out good. Everything worked out good. I'm really proud. I'm really glad they worked out that way. Um, and we'll see where it goes from there. This again, WWE tends to like book for the moments, for the pops, and so this seems to. Hopefully, this isn't that. We'll see what happens once we get over the hump of Becky and Seth, and what does AJ do on her own. You know, interested to see how that works. Um, they could do a one-on-one thing with Becky and have AJ be the one to take the title from her. I think that'd be interesting. Go figure. Um, I am not particularly looking forward to WrestlePalooza. Again, hard to support this company. But beyond that, why would you book your show opposite of another company's pay per view? They hadn't done that. They didn't do that in WCW, but now they're doing it. Didn't really do it with TNA. I don't think. I don't believe that ever happened with TNA. This insistence that Triple H has with eliminating the competition, and I don't know if he's having like a flashback to his DX days where they like marched on WCW or whatever, and he's like, "No, we're not gonna march, but we're gonna do all we can to actually put them out of business." How do we get to a point where Triple H is booking at first from NXT to like the first year or so of WWE was super solid, super solid, and somehow he gets to main roster and forgets how to book, forgets how to do anything. It's it's interesting. I don't know how we got here. And now, rather than fix your booking, rather than put a little more energy into it, rather than putting a little, you know, whatever you got into it, you said, no, you know what? I don't have to get better. I'm just gonna kill the competition. I don't think AEW is going anywhere. I don't. Everybody has a comment. Everybody has something to say. Booker T, Bully Ray, Jim Cornette. Everybody has something to say about AEW. But you know what? People had shit to say about TNA in 2002, 3, 4, 5. Here we are in 2025, and they're still here. So, what does any of that mean, right? Um, So I mean, I don't think AEW is going anywhere, but I just the tactic of trying to manipulate um, the fans basically and make them have to choose is disgusting. Um, Especially when your product typically isn't firing the way it has in the past. Um, you know, I believe that the AJ Lee return is a bigger thing than Brock versus John Cena. The idea of AJ and Punk taking on Seth and Becky is a more promising idea than John Cena versus um, Brock Lesnar. As controversial as Brock Lesnar is right now, and as strange as Cena's heel turn, face turn, re-face turn has been, um, again, I just look at it like, what's happening? What are we doing here? Um, it's an interesting space to be in. Um, I'll be honest, I didn't have a lot of topics. I wanted to talk AEW, and I wanted to talk those few little WWE points, but I don't have a whole lot of WWE points. Um, but we're talking about wrestling here. See, this is the point. I mean, quick programming note again. This is the point where I would have maybe a grab bag, maybe some questions from you, the viewing people, things you can answer, an AMA. You know, ask me anything about AMA, AW. Ask me anything about wrestling, because I tend to be a bit of a wrestling nerd. That's what I'll call it, a bit of a wrestling nerd. And so charge it, charge it to me. But eventually, after that, and how do we get there? If you like, share, and subscribe. Let me do that right. Like, share, and subscribe. I don't know if it's up there right now, but I'm going to put it up there. Like, share, subscribe. There we go. Do it in that direction. But yeah, like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell anybody who will listen. If you know any wrestlers who would love to be interviewed, especially some indie guys from wherever. If you know anybody who would like to do some interviews, maybe they don't get a lot of interviews wherever they are. Feel free to throw them my way. I would love to serve as a practice interview for these guys because it'll sharpen me just as much as it probably sharpens them. So if you have that, feel free to point them my way. BlackPhoenixSubstack.com, BlackPhoenix.substack.com. Talking about wrestling podcast here on the Black Phoenix Network. I would love to interview anybody. 901 Wrestling. Um, I know you should be listening. If you're not, you should be listening. Um, because again, love to get guests on here. That'd be another thing. If I had a guest, bounce back and forth. So eventually we'll get some guests here. Eventually we'll be going live. Eventually we'll be doing like comments, questions, concerns. I can address all of that. But again, I don't get there without your help, without your assistance, without your presence. So again, I thank you for being here, and I thank you for blasting this out to everybody that you know, because of course that's what you're gonna do. Right. Right. Yeah. Um, and so I honestly, let's see what time are we at. We've been going for over 35 minutes. That's actually very short because I like to give you all like at least an hour. And if not an hour, I think the very least would be maybe 45 minutes. Like you don't mind like bar shit or whatever. I don't know where that came from. Oh, one thing I will cover. Apparently, Nashville. It's funny because I had just been looking at the shows that AEW has done this year, and what they have coming up. And I was like, they hadn't been to Memphis. They hadn't even been to Tennessee all year, which is kind of strange because they usually have made that track by now. And apparently it has been announced, not even apparently. And it reminds me that I need to get my money together so I can do this. AEW is coming to Nashville for the Thanksgiving show, which is huge because Chicago usually gets the Thanksgiving show. So they'll be there for a double taping of Dynamite and Collision on Thanksgiving Eve. And I 110% intend to be there, and I'm not sure how this. I'm not sure about how, as far as my work schedule goes. But who cares about that? I think I will be in Nashville for that. Absolutely. Um, Now you can come to Memphis more. I would love to have you here, but you know, take what I can get, right? Also, again, not World's End. Russell Dream is in St. Louis in October. Thinking about going to that one too. So again, anybody watching, you plan on attending either one of these shows, feel free to hit me up. Leave a message somewhere. DM me on Substack. DM me anywhere. You're gonna be there, hit me up. I love meeting wrestling fans. I love hanging out. I don't have a lot of wrestling friends, period, which is why I'm here talking to you. So I love meeting new wrestling fans, people that I can, you know, um, really just hang out with when it comes to showtime, and we can enjoy these shows together sometimes. Uh, Met a guy from the one of the wrestling groups that I'm in on Facebook. I met him in Texas for All In. We ended up sitting together watching the show. Made the experience that much more incredible because I promise the amount of time that I've attended a wrestling show with someone versus the amount of time that I've gone by myself is way out of proportion. So, if you plan on going to either of these shows, the St. Louis Wrestle Dream or the Nashville show for Thanksgiving, hit me up, let me know, and hey, maybe we can hook things up and catch the show. Um, we are one. We are. Um, One thing I want to point out before I get out of here, before I start signing off, as you see, I have a glorious new layout. Um, Let me know what you think about that. I think it looks pretty cool. Um, Leaning back to show off this week's shirt. I'm rambling at this point, so we're gonna get out of here, okay? Again, but also do drop a comment, drop any notes or anything you have to say. Tell me what you think of the new layout for the show. That being said, make sure you check out any of my content throughout the week. Was a Wednesday, which this Wednesday I'll be dropping 2 Was a Wednesday articles, written articles. Manifesto Mondays, where I will be breaking down the music that I've created over the years. And of course, make sure you're tuned in every Saturday right here on the Black Fitness Network for Talmbout Wrestling. Again, most importantly, like, share, subscribe. I'll do it again. Like, share, subscribe to the Black Phoenix Network. The more you support, the more we can do. And I should be setting the soft goal. Let's set a goal. Right now I'm at, I think, 12 or 13 subscribers. Let's shoot for 25 before I go live. Or maybe 25 before I get some guests. Let's do that. 25 subscribers, I'll start doing guests. And then we'll go from there, from when it's time to start going live there, right? But again, like, share, subscribe, tell anybody, tell your friends, tell a neighbor, tell a wrestling fan, tell your Facebook groups, tell your group chats, tell your wrestling friends, tell your wrestlers that are friends or friends that are wrestlers. Tell them all. Tell anybody you can about the Black Phoenix Network and Talking About Wrestling podcast. I would love to have people here to have those, these conversations, wrestling conversations. This has been a light show. Of course, I said we're going to talk about AEW. This has actually kind of been a slow wrestling week, oddly enough. At least about the stuff that I'm willing to talk about. Like I said, I don't watch WWE. I didn't watch Raw or NXT, TNA. I had to watch anything else. So, again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this Black Phoenix Network movement. Thank you for watching Talmbout Wrestling. Thank you for checking out all my other content. Once again, I am your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins. Again, see the layout? See that? See that? The untouchable J.R. Now it's just there. Now it's there the whole time instead of doing that thing. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins. This is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. This is Talmbout. I had to do the thing. This is Talmbout Wrestling on the Black Phoenix Network. Until next time, we are out.